guys, I'm Layla. Welcome to raidlore Stories. Today's lore story is going to be for Arix. If I remember correctly, I believe she is a login champ, so I hope you guys enjoy her story. Arix was once a knight of the Sacred Order. Young and idealistic, she combined her vigor and fighting skills with an unswerving dedication to the tenets of her faith. She rose quickly through the ranks, but always hungered for greater success, greater glory. She harbored a zealous hatred of the undead and sought assignments to hunt them throughout Anhalt and beyond. It wasn't long before Arix's favor saw her overreach. After being promised reinforcements by a senior knight of the Sacred Order, she set out to slay a necromancer by the name of Arquaz. Her warriors were few, and when she cornered Arquaz, the expected aid failed to materialize. Arix's companions fell to Arquaz's undead host. Arix herself barely escaped. When she sought out the knight who'd promised to help her, she discovered that he'd been killed in a battle against another undead foe. Arix now saw that the forces of the Order were not powerful enough to protect Teleria from the curse of Siroth's spawn. Many had the advantage of immortality, while the warriors of the Order were mere mortals. Arix resolved to find a way to change this, to find the time and strength she needed to tip the scales in the everlasting crusade against the undead. It was at this point that she crossed paths with the cult of Cleth. Members of the cult of Cleth showed Arix how, if she proved her worth, her soul could be transmuted via a soul gem into a younger body. At first, Arix was suspicious of the dark magics involved, but she was also desperate and believed her purity of purpose would protect her. After all, she did not seek such immortality for personal power, but so she could make herself an unrelenting enemy of the undead. And so, Arix was inducted into the cult of Cleth and fell prey to its pervasive teachings. The leaders of the cult, the Night Revenant, did indeed have their consciousness transferred to younger, more able bodies, but they had little desire to share such a privilege with the thousands of acolytes who made up their body of servants. Occasionally, however, one would catch their eye. Arix was one such fortunate. Her sword skill was impressive, and her presence within the Sacred Order made her a useful asset. She was courted by one particular Night Revenant, Zoriel, who tried to use her to influence the Order. Over the years, Arix became even more warped by the beliefs of the cult, yearning for immortality and losing sight of her former good intent. It angered her to see how the likes of Zoriel were not willing to share their immortality. Eventually, Arix challenged Zoriel, demanding that she be given a new younger body, or she would not only slay Zoriel, but shatter his soul gem too, snuffing out his existence forever. Arix defeated Zoriel, and the desperate Night Revenant granted Arix's wish. Believing she would need to choose the body of someone pure if her own supposedly righteous purpose was to remain unsullied, Arix abducted a squire from the Sacred Order to be her vessel. Once a knight of the Sacred Order, Arix's soul now was twisted by decades spent with the cult of Cleth. Now the dark magics of this rushed ceremony took her from one good that was left. What Arix had done soon became known to the Order, and she was not only expelled, but declared undead. When Arix's former friends came for her, they found her much changed. Finding their zealotry small-minded, Arix slayed them all, deciding that it was the Sacred Order which was, in fact, misguided. If they could not see that only an immortal could match the undead, then she would not count herself among their number. In the decades since, Arix's hatred of the undead has remained, but her path has long since wandered. She will ally with the Sacred Order, albeit grudgingly, but any amity she once had to it no longer withered and died. The Night Revenant now see Arix as an outlier and a danger. To them, she is unwelcome proof that despicable, disposable acolytes are not beyond seizing a power of their own. For her own part, Arix cares nothing for her former fellow cultists. She rose to her current position through her iron will and skill, and any incapable of doing so themselves are not worthy of her assistance. Arix claimed immortality with sword and fist, and she will keep it the same way, whether her fellow Night Revenant approve or not. Well, that is a very interesting story for Arix. Okay, so she starts out as Sacred Order, which I guess makes sense, looking at the way that she is dressed. And so she starts out joining the Night Revenant for a good, noble reason, right? Like, she wants to fight the undead. But basically, I mean, she looks pretty undead herself now, too, even though she's in the Night Revenant. Guys, drop me some comments down below what you think for the lore story for Arix. And thank you so much for watching.